Hey everyone, so welcome to the episode of the podcast Koon Rijjeil. So today we have Seena Akbary, one of the many great people that I train with in the mornings. Honestly, pushed me in my fitness and mentality levels to a different level, realizing what it means to work at a high performance level to really get the best version out of yourself. I'm not going to spoil the party too much. I'm going to welcome Seena onto the podcast. So Seena, welcome to Koon Rijjeil.
Thanks for having me, Kareem.
My pleasure. So Seena, the way we start every single episode on Koon Rijjeil is, what does Koon Rijjeil mean to you? So you might not know what Koon Rijjeil as a
Yeah.
term might mean, but it's like an Arabic way of saying be a man. What
Okay.
does that mean to you, as Sino?
Does be a man mean? Oof. Cena is just, be the best version of yourself. Um, do the best you can with what you have, and stay consistent.
Mm.
That's what I think.
And where do you think you've been a man in your life?
Ooh, there's been ups and downs. There's been points where, I felt like I was that consistent, being the best version of myself, and there's points where I was like, okay, this is a big mental block. I need to figure something out because I'm going downhill right now.
Mm. And what did that look like for you going downhill? Like, was it job wise, work wise, education in your younger years, or
Yeah. They're really good ones. I've had many different experiences. It's been not making the first cut for football team. It's been failing exams. It's been dream job that didn't work. There's a lot of places that have been, I call them mental blocks, as the aftermath. So, we get there, we have all this hope, we have um, these expectations, and then, when it doesn't go so well, you just you get this mental block, this fogginess, and you just feel like you're not good enough. So I think that's really where I put most of my focus and my studies into.
mm. And
Yeah.
how did you cope with them? Because I mean, look, I mean,
Yeah.
myself, I mean, growing up with ADHD and growing up with all these things, like
Yeah.
I kind of know exactly what you're talking about, but I wanted to know how you dealt with them. Because for me, I didn't deal with them for a large part of my life until maybe my early 20s,
Yeah.
which to me was a bit too late. But I'm still here, so it's okay. But how did you know, deal with them at the time?
Mental blocks. There's been definitely, I would say, fitness, gym, pushing, putting pressure on myself at extremes has definitely been something, exhausting myself because I'm very hyperactive myself. So, expending that energy and just, helping with brain fog, definitely trying to keep my serotonin high, trying to be happy, surround myself with the right people. Um, but definitely going into sports psychology was probably, the most powerful tool of
Mm,
education that helped me to understand, how my mind works and how am I going to deal with this mental fog.
mm,
Um, it's uh, it's a lot of steps. It's there's different ways of practicing, but definitely something that you have to see as homework. It's not something that you can just wake up and be like, yeah, my
definitely.
mental blocks are gone. What's the next step?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so now walk me through it. So now, so why did you get into that phase of I want to study sports psychology?
Yeah.
Why was that your go-to? Was it did you feel like it was a need, maybe something that you wanted to understand a little bit more of because of your own experiences, or was it just something that you?
100% own experiences. ACL injury, dream of becoming a professional athlete didn't work, and this was the last kind of breaking bone. This is where it was like, okay, this is your last chance, because that was probably the hardest point of depression. Because throughout high school there was so many ups and downs. I grew up in a very I want to say, don't want to say competitive family, but I feel like me and my
Mm,
sister, just being 1 year apart, has
mm.
always been kind of who gets the better grades,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
very, very competitive. And it put me in this mindset that I really had, I felt like, and I knew I had a lot of training to do because I was constantly looking at the outside world and what they thought of me. I mean, that's really where mental blocks and what you can call depression comes from. It's really just, having these expectations and then basically worrying about what everyone else thinks of you. Didn't make the team. Everyone in the team, my old friends, the guys I grew up with, studied with, aren't going to see me the same. My parents aren't going to see me the same. It's just, you start thinking that, damn, I didn't make it.
Mm,
And yeah, it happened a few times from football switching to wrestling, SATs, and then yeah, the breaking point was the injury, and that was like, okay, I stayed down. I stayed down for a while, and
Wow.
then blessed with family to come and be like, you need to get up.
You need to
Like
pick yourself
I've
back up.
never seen you at this point. I've always been, you know, um, competitive. Education. My studies and my sports have always been kind of, I want to say, really, I've always been pushing the limits. I've been
Mm,
taking AP classes since high school, looking towards Ivy League. I've always had this goal, but then everything crashing put me in a place where like it's at zero, and it's
mm,
like, what am I gonna do from here? So studying sports psychology and learning how to get over these mental blocks by just getting up and getting after it. That
yeah.
you got to go and you got to push yourself and you got to stop looking at the outside. And that was
Mm,
that was the main thing. That it doesn't. We all have our own journey in this life. Someone becomes a millionaire at 25. Someone becomes a millionaire at 40. We all have our own paths based on how we were, grown up, how we were raised.
mm,
Maybe more financially blessed than others. Everyone has something different. So we have to look at our own path and really just understand that it really doesn't matter. It
mm,
doesn't matter what everyone else is doing, and really believing that, saying that is one thing, but believing that and living by that would change your life. It really
mm,
will, because then you just see a different side of this world. It is just your world. And now your world has plenty of space for expansion. It can it
mm,
can it can keep going. When you're
yeah.
looking at all these different things, it's just like,
Where do I go?
where do I go? I gotta please him, her. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And it's crazy because I think part of what you're saying is, to me, part of what it means to be a man as well, right? So especially when you're at your lowest, you need to pick yourself back up. And sometimes you're blessed, you have your family, you have friends around you, whatever, who will help you, to get there, to take that step. And I think a lot of times, I mean, maybe even within the sports industry as well, and when you're competing, when you're doing different things, it's not that easy to
no.
get back up, because sometimes you see the high of the high and then you're like, yeah, whatever, I'm at the low, but at least I've done it once. But it needs that mental preparedness and that toughness to really go again, and to feel like, no, I'm gonna go again until my last day.
Takes
Um,
a lot of motivation,
yeah.
and motivation is built on what I believe your greatest values.
Mm,
Like what means the most to you. Like is it your kids? Is it having stability, freedom?
mm,
I've always valued freedom more than anything. Just again, to my childhood, my upbringing, it's what I've always wanted. I want to have the freedom to be able to do what I want to do.
mm,
And have have my own path according to Cena. So having that value, just every morning waking up, if it's hard, I'm gonna do it because
mm,
I want that freedom.
mm,
I've got plenty of people I've worked with, that valued their kids more than anything, and it's just such a powerful tool.
mm,
It's like, you know what, gym, great, make me look good, but not every day, just looking good is gonna be enough to
mm,
get you to where you
mm,
want to go. For example, in this kind of
mm,
example. But he's like, no, I've got to be in shape to be able to be a role model to my kid. I've got to be able to pick him up. I've got to be able to hike with him. He's sporty. I got to keep up with that.
yeah,
Okay, I'm going to go to the gym.
yeah,
So just attaching it to your biggest value is just motivation is, mentally so powerful. And it could be anything. It could be whatever you value the most.
mm,
Um, that's one of my, you know, motivational drivers.
yeah. And what do you think your tool is, or what do you think that thing that you work for every single day? What is that?
What do I value more than
Mm,
anything?
mm,
It was freedom, but now I think it's more time.
mm,
I value time now, having more time to be able to start a family. That's my next, um, but that's what I'm sleeping with and waking up to every morning.
mm,
Like let's do this because you need more time to be able to, sustain a
yeah.
family that you want. So yeah, it's definitely my driver now.
Crazy. The thing is, like, because a lot of times whenever people have their sort of drivers or their motivations or their tools, a lot of times they just go out the window within a month.
Mm,
And I think the main key here is, going back to what you were saying, is that you need to really believe in what you're saying, and not just say it because, yeah, it sounds cool, or because
yeah,
someone said it and it made sense to me. No, no, it needs to be fitting to your own journey, what you've been through up until from childhood up until to where you are in this very moment. And I think, a lot of times, yeah, you need to keep that as the first thing that you think about before you do any single thing, is, why am I doing it? Okay, it's for
uh,
whatever reason. If it's freedom, time, family, you just go for it from there.
100%. And then things get tough, right? It's
Mm.
not gonna always be smooth either.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Nope,
like
we
just
know it.
because you believe in the value as well,
Nope.
and you love it, there's gonna be these really hard, places where it's like, okay, another one to overcome. One thing I always tell people is really just being comfortable in the uncomfortable can really help. And then, but I'm talking about, pushing yourself to an environment or a mental state. It could be anything. Some people are like,
Mm.
okay, I don't want to break a record, or because these are the things that I really went towards. Like, put my body through something
Mm.
16 hours, just do something that puts me in a place where I'm like, when I'm done, when life has these downs,
Mm.
I'm like, I just went through that. This is okay.
This is
You know what I
easy.
mean? That's really why I do these things. And I tell people it could be even something if you're an intellectual and you love reading, set a challenge, 10-hour reading, learn a language. How
Mm.
about, can I learn a
Mm.
language in 2 days? Think
That's
about that.
crazy.
If I told
Yeah.
someone, can I learn 50% of a language in 2 days? You have to sit up, you have to read, you have to
Mm.
listen, you have to repeat,
Mm.
right? And then imagine you overcome that and then you have a goal to get to, a certain degree of intellectual where you have to read 2 hours a day. How's that going to be when you've already, done 12 hours in
Piece
two
of
days?
cake.
You get me?
Yeah.
It's just like this is
And the thing is, and and I sort of saw that with you when we trained for High Rocks when we did it in Qatar a few months ago. Because I remember there was one session I was sitting there, I was like, man, why the fuck are we doing like 200 kilo sled push? And I'm like, but hold on, when we go into competition day, it's like what? It's much less than that,
150.
150. So essentially, we're training more than what we need to, but then it's going to be easier on competition day, so you're able to perform a bit better, and mentally you're stronger. Because even then, even if for some reason competition day it's harder, you go like, but actually I've done harder 3 4 weeks ago, whatever it was. So yeah, I think that's all super important.
Same concept, same
Yeah.
thing, and it's a benefit physically and mentally because now your body's felt it. Your
Yeah.
body's felt something 50 kilos heavier. You're obviously gonna have to adapt.
Mm,
You've adapted to something heavier. That's gonna be easier.
of course.
Mentally as well. I mean, runners, almost all athletes play this role. I think some
Mm,
of the best runners now, performance coaching has been like ankle weights. They're running with ankle weights.
yeah.
Not gonna run with ankle weights in the race,
Yeah.
but imagine the benefits they've
Very
gotten
cool.
from that. Yeah, physically and mentally. Like, oh, my ankles are free.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
feel light. I'm a fly. So
That's an
yeah,
idea for your next session. Just saying.
you got me some ideas.
I always do. Good question.
It's true. You've definitely always in
Yeah.
sessions. You always got that creativity.
Yeah, but yeah. So I wanted to go back to something you said a little bit earlier. So
Mm.
you study sports psychology.
Correct.
How did that help you today? Because I mean, I think you mentioned it briefly last time we spoke, which was you've worked in the field for a little bit and then went in and out, and then now you're just doing coaching and stuff like that. So how did that help you? And what are the things that you've seen people tend to struggle with, and as well, and maybe even helped you understand your mental state, whether it's in training, in competitions, and whatever it may be.
Very good question. Well, sports psychology is really broad, but I always tell people that before, because I've worked with different athletes, teams, and I've noticed where you have an athlete that's already has been mentally prepared through the psychology set, through dealing with anxiety, etc. More of the basic stuff. Because sports psychology is the master, so
Mm,
this is the next step.
mm,
So before that, making sure that you have your own mental stability.
mm.
Everything okay at home. Are you around the right people? Do you know how to deal with anxiety? It's gonna happen. You're gonna have fear.
Definitely.
You're gonna have fear of failure. The fear of failure goes a little bit more into the in-depth sports specific, but definitely build the core. Once the core is done, then we go into more sports specific, which
Mm,
is like fear of failure, external, internal distractions, the crowd
mm,
shouting, how to deal with it. Personally, I loved it. It helped me so much with my own mental, and it was the base. It was the
mm,
psychology set
mm.
before even getting to thinking about sports, because my sports career at that time I thought it ended.
Mm.
Now it's great to be back
Yeah.
after years, but at that point I was like, okay, sports is over for me. Let's work on something new, and overcoming all my own fears and expectations really put me in a place where I was like, okay, this is something that I can save a lot of kids like myself.
Mm.
younger generation. You don't really go into sports psychology till you get into Division 3, 2, 1. Back in the day, only even just D1 or higher. You had to be at a really high level to even see one, which I felt was really unfair. Because it's just 50% of training. It's 50% of the game.
Yeah.
If you don't, you could be performing excellent. You could be the best, top performance, genetically made, whatever. If you're not strong mentally, you're gonna struggle.
Oh, yeah.
I promise you. I've seen it 1,000. I've seen it even in the World Cup. I've seen young players coming down, and they've got sports psychologists, but they don't have enough experience with the sports psychologist. Might have been just 1 or 2 years. Once they went pro, you notice the crowd starts screaming, pressure's there, all the country's looking at you, and he shoots the ball out. It's not that he didn't practice or he hasn't shot enough penalties. He knows what he's doing. Physically, he's ready. He's been playing football since he was 4. But he only got a sports psychologist a few years ago. That pressure put him in a place where his body got anxiety, cortisol levels went up, brain gets foggy, synapses in your frontal lobe of your brain stop working as well. And the leg just doesn't direct the motor neurons, sends the wrong signal out. It's most people don't know these things. It's but we understand it. When I tell people, they're like, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I've been in that position where, I felt pressure. I go on a stage to talk and I'm shaking. That's also that's sports psychology. Sports psychology is more sports specific, but that's psychology. So it's super important. And as you said, for me, I didn't stay in that field too long as a therapist, because I felt like just for me, it just felt like, again, another part of my life where I felt like what wasn't my path. It was like, okay, people study sports psychology, become a sports psychologist. Does that mean I have to be, a therapist forever? No, it doesn't. Everyone has their own path. Everything suits someone some way or it doesn't. And now I have a mixture of coaching. I started something called Global Star Fitness like 6 years ago, where I'm mixing psychology with coaching, S&C. So now I've got a little bit of combination. So everyone that, I work with knows that Seena's going to, every now and then throw some psychology into it. But I'm not your standard therapist.
No.
Yeah.
Thing is, and I remember, and I'll keep talking about Horrocks because that was maybe my first experience with you on a competition. And I remember there was at one session we sat down and you gave us a good 30 minutes of just mental work of when this happens, do the not sort of black or white, but it's more of you need to adapt. You need to know that it's going to be uncomfortable. You need to know that there are times where you're going to feel like you need to push. Mentally, it's going to be tough because there's, as you said, there's a shit ton of people watching, a shit ton of people running past you and stuff, and you need to know how to manage your thoughts, how to manage the way that your body's moving, the way that you're thinking, the way that you're breathing, which also something that we don't talk about enough, which is breathing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, when I would go through a lot of like anxious phases and times and moments, I'll be like, okay, whatever, I'll get through. But I didn't realize how much of an effect breathing actually has on that, which is something that I don't think we do enough or talk about enough. But yeah, it's crazy. So I wanted to ask you, so now if you're in that phase of, let's say you have a teammate, you're playing football, American football, I presume, right? American football or soccer?
Soccer.
Okay, football. That's American.
Let's take the American football.
So let's say they missed the last minute penalty. They're meant to win the game. They blew it. They go back to the changing room. They're like, man, I'm done. I've lost it. I can't, I can't focus. I'm so under pressure and all this kind of stuff. How do you approach that from your own background, from your own experience? What kind of sort of advice would you give that person? And what are the things that you would, as well, maybe even try to include as part of the trainings, that you guys get into?
Yeah. So this is going to go more towards fear of failure. This is going to put your athletes in a state of fear of failure, scared of it happening again, losing confidence. So really, what I would have is more time in the training room, but more training, with intention of I am good enough, being more specific and targeting your strengths, really pushing on those, not forgetting your weaknesses and not forgetting why, you didn't do so well. The thing is, it's a bit different with a team sport, because with team sport, you could be doing fantastic, but, something can happen where your team dynamic wasn't,
Mm.
as good, and that cost you guys the game. So I would have a different approach with the team or with more the individual. Um, and like I said, with individual, I would really have him, focus on the strengths, but not forget the weaknesses, and that's really
Mm.
important because just telling someone to, focus on your strengths is obviously not going to work
Mm.
because then he's
The
going to
weakness is
continue to
still
make the
there.
same mistake again. And we love the positivity, and we grew up with our parents always telling us do the best you can, and that's great, and that's really important to be positive because if you're not positive, you'll have brain fog. As I said, the
Mm.
synapses in your brain
Mm.
will not overcome problems. That's the area where you complete things, right? So, um, not going hard on yourself, but definitely, keeping an open eye and just really working tactic specific to where you can get better.
Mm.
And then mentally, I would go really deep into, um, guys, that's okay. The people that saw you doesn't matter. They're they're gonna see you succeed on the next game. You know, it's even a more
Mm.
cool surprise
Yeah.
when they see you do a hat trick.
Yeah.
You know,
When you surprise everyone,
that's
you're
even
like,
cooler. Focus on the podium now.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what happened there. Who is it? I think Kobe. One of his interviews, he talked about how many times he's lost. And people like to hear these things. So I like to explain these
Yeah.
things to the athletes because a lot of times I can go into science and teach someone, and talk about it, but it won't register. So
Mm.
it's better to always give a live example. Talk
Mm.
about it, show the
Mm.
stats, show Kobe lost. I'm just I have no idea. I'm just putting it out there.
Mm.
For example, he's lost 40 times.
Yeah.
He's lost 40 games.
Mm.
Look at that, and he became the best player in the world. So, that gives the athlete more of a, wow, you know what? Yeah, I've only lost four.
Mm.
I'm still at the beginning of my
Yeah.
game. Like this is just the start. Um, Really convince them that it's okay to lose. It's
Mm.
okay. It's okay. And not that it's okay you lost. It's
It's
just
okay. It's okay. You can keep on losing. No, that's not the point. The point of it is it's okay that you lost this time, but learn from your mistake.
and
Don't
then let's keep going.
make sure that these mistakes don't happen
Yeah,
again, or try to reduce the margin for error next time.
exactly.
And I
I
think
agree.
as well, Federer recently did a speech at Harvard
Yeah.
graduation ceremony speech, and he said exactly the same thing. He's like, I've lost this many games, and I've come back from losing positions this many times, but at the end of the day, he's still one of the not one of the greatest tennis player of all time.
Djokovic, same story.
Djokovic, same story.
Yeah, he just went on stage as well for the
Yeah.
Olympics. So
And for him, it was a
it's
big thing because I mean, he hasn't won at an Olympic ever, so that's crazy.
and you know how long he's been playing for. Look at that.
Mm.
He's got miles.
Yeah.
That's what we say now because I've gotten more into swimming and running now. And a lot of the coaches, one of the big things they're pushing on now is having miles in a sport
Mm.
can really help you just doing the same thing over and over and
Mm.
over,
Keep on
you know?
going.
And then just age just really can become a number, especially with endurance sports,
Yeah.
you know? It
And
just
I've noticed, by the way, a lot of people get better as they get older, and I find that very, very interesting. I never,
and that's 100% endurance right there.
yeah,
Strength wise, not scientifically,
yeah,
joints, the muscles, they're not going to be as strong as the
yeah,
older you get.
yeah,
Hate to say it, endurance keeps growing.
yeah.
It keeps
I've
growing
realized that.
till your tendons and joints or diseases come to you.
Yeah, I've
So
noticed that some of the guys that train with us, I'm like, man, these guys are old, but they're running like they're
some
they're
of the
they're
best,
not.
the best marathon
Yeah,
runners, you just see these guys.
yeah, that's crazy. So, so you touched upon FOMO, right? Or sorry, fear of failure.
Yeah,
I'm going to talk about outside of sports because I think I think in sports, we all go through it, we all experience it, but I think going back to us as men, right? We always have this fear of failure from marriage, from relationships, from anything you want to do in life. Whether it's on like I want to start up my own company, it doesn't work out. It's like what are people, especially in Arab culture, it's like maybe even it's like what are people going to say about me? Like, are people going to make fun of me? Are people going to, and what's how would you sort of again mitigate that thought of it's fine, like, or
yeah,
or I don't know, or let's say I don't know you don't know, you have a big decision you need to make, you take it, it doesn't work out, but then because you're the man, people might have that magnifying glass of like, oh, he failed, he didn't deliver. How would you
yeah.
sort of go about that?
It comes back to the same. Stop competing with other people.
Mm.
Stop competing with other people and stop caring what the world expects of you,
Mm.
because there is no expectation. I mean, who is anyone to judge where you go or what your path
Mm.
is, or when you have to be something. It's your world. This is just you, you know? Focus on your world, and you can actually develop, and you can reach that. Your goal doesn't have to change. It could be, you could tell yourself, I want to get married at 30 and have a happy relationship and have my first kid at 32.
Mm.
That's fantastic. That doesn't
Mm.
have to change. That has nothing to do with not caring about what other people think. Someone might have that goal at 18 years old, you know? So it's really just doesn't matter. It's yours, and you got to do what you have to do to get there.
Yeah.
And as long as you know that you have your own path in this life, and someone else's path is just their own path, and it has nothing to do with yours. Even if it's your best friend and you guys grew up together, it has his own destiny.
Yeah.
you know and it's tough. I know,
Oh,
it's
definitely.
tough, especially because you got parents as well pressuring on you.
Mm.
Peer pressure. It's not easy, of that expectation of, as you said, like, be a man. But the problem is, scientifically, when you go into psychology, that stress that you're having of trying to get there or do that for someone else's satisfaction
Mm.
is actually going to slow you down really badly.
Mm.
Okay, there's that cortisol, that hormone is not going anywhere. It will rise, and it will
Mm.
rise to a point where all diseases come from stress,
Mm.
right? And it might not reach that extreme, but you are actually putting brain fog in the frontal lobe of your brain. You
Mm.
are gonna have synapses slow down, and you're not gonna be able to be as productive, as fast, as sharp, as fixing as you can be. So you need
Mm.
to understand that, yeah, okay, I might want to satisfy my mom or dad, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to understand that that pressure that you're going to put on yourself, if your goal is to make your mom happy, if that's your value, that's great, but it's going to slow you down. It's going to slow you down if there's that pressure on you. Environmental pressure is the most dangerous thing in this world. It really is. And it sounds simple, and a lot of people, I'm sure, have been saying for years that, don't care what I focus, don't care about anybody else. But when you actually look deeply into the science of it,
Mm.
you realize that environmental pressure is dangerous. It puts you into a mental block, which will reach to depression.
Yeah.
It'll put you in a place where you're like, where where am I going? Why is it
Mm.
so slow? I've already passed 1 year past the age that I'm supposed to do that, to be like that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Uh,
it's not fun. It's
Yeah. Thing is, I mean, because I think, maybe the way that me and you grew up are a little bit similar. So I also have an older sister. I
Yeah,
don't know if your sister's older or younger, but
older.
okay. So between me and my sister, there's 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times in my life, I'd be like, she's already married.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 3 years younger, so I should get married now.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, I need to do this. It's like she got a good job, then I need to get a good job. I don't know if she's driving this car, I need to drive that car because, and the thing is, what I've started to notice, and even through therapy, by the way, was honestly, you need to do it for yourself and not for anyone else. Because the minute you do it for someone else, you've already lost the battle. You've already lost your intention. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. But when you're training or when you're living your life for you, um, life will come for you. Life will happen for you when you start putting in the right pieces to the puzzle. And even even in very small things like even in High Rocks, I'm gonna keep going back to because
Yeah.
that to me was the biggest lesson I've learned.
And it's the big focus right now, isn't
I
it?
remember when we were so before you start the race, they put you in like this little box, whatever. And
Yeah.
you're standing there,
The
me,
sound, the music.
yeah, and me and Fadi were standing there. Fadi, if you know Fadi, he's awesome. He's just ready to go, all motivation. I'm there, I'm ready, but I see these other guys. I'm like, man, this guy looks pretty fit. This guy might outrun me. This guy might do this. And then you get outside to the running track. You're like, fuck, okay, there's a million other guys who are running for the same goal. But then what I started to shift after that was, okay, hold on, they're on their own journey. They might be way faster than I am. That's fine. I don't care.
Train 20 years more.
Exactly. They're older, so therefore they've had more training sessions. So that doesn't matter to me anymore. What matters to me is I'm doing what's best for me in this current moment and living my life day by day after that, and taking on decisions that really are the best for me as a person, but as well for the future life that I want to have for myself and my family and my kids. So
And making sure you celebrate those wins as well.
yeah.
Every win is
Oh,
a win.
definitely.
And it's, again, whose definition of a win is it?
Mm.
Finishing that high rocks can be your win.
Yeah.
Completing it
Oh, definitely.
in less than an hour and a half is a win. You know what I mean? But some other one will tell you, no, being on the podium is a win. So again,
Exactly.
it's very important to live in that own. And I want to go back on the sibling thing, because it's really, for me, it's very emotional. It's very impactful, because personally, I feel like the growth in my life happened at that moment when I was like, I, t- I really think it all had to do with the upbringing of me and my sister.
Mm.
I don't know if she was competing with me, but I felt that it was always a thing that, like, it's a university thing. Go to a good university. I was like, I'm gonna go to a good. You know what I mean? It was like, who are we showing to? Who do we have to prove to? I gotta show my dad and mom that I'm good enough as well. But as soon as that stopped,
Yeah.
as soon as I was like, quit my job,
Yeah.
she's been working in corporate ever since I've known, straight out. She went to high positions, doing great, loved it. Family was always happy. As soon as I was like, you know what? It's not my path. And I just quit, and I started from zero. And I was like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to invest all my savings, put everything in. I'm not going to win for at least 3 years. There's going to be no financial gain in this.
Yeah.
You know, it just, when I went to Seena's world, and thankfully everything worked out. Really, I just started noticing this. And at the beginning, that validation was not there, but I didn't care about the validation. And if I did care about the validation during that first year, I would have stopped. I would have went into full depression, because doing a business is not easy. And in the beginning, the first year, there is nothing to be validated about. You're not doing that well.
Yeah.
You're not hitting targets,
Yeah.
you're not growing your team, And then when I was okay with that, went from 2 employees to 5 to 10 to 20, it just kept going after that.
Yeah.
And then felt like Cena's happy, and whatever came on the outside, I'll just take it in. But I'm not gonna. Now I've already went through that mental state where I said, you know what, this is for Cena, and I started keeping my successes even more quiet, and that's when I felt even more cozy and comfortable.
Yeah. Because no one needs to know.
I just started feeling even more cozy, and so great where I got to a point where people started asking me, looking like things are looking great. How's everything? I just started not. I just, yeah, alhamdulillah, blessed. Thank you. Everything,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. How are you? How's it? Just changing the subject. I felt so much more relief. I felt so much more relaxed.
course.
I even got to a point, because I've some people will say, Sina was big into influencing and Instagram, because it was one of the things that started my business. And I used to be, definitely, I could say, compared to now, a lot more into social media. I used to post every day, talk, trying to add value, doing the social media thing. I got to a point, Kareem, where I was one of the representatives for TikTok MENA in the UAE.
Wow.
For fitness influencer for TikTok. So official TikTok MENA chose me as one of, I think we were 8 for different categories, to, influence the fitness health industry for the entire MENA. I was getting 2 million, 3 million. If you go to my old TikTok, you'll see crazy amount of views, comments, to a point where I would walk into gas stations, and the people working, so I know you. You're the guy on TikTok. There's that crazy fitness challenges and workouts. I was doing these, go in the middle of the desert, flip.
I remember I saw
hammer.
a few of those,
You'll go back and you'll see them. I used to do these videos with my dogs. I used to do all this outdoorsy crazy stuff.
Yeah.
To a point, again, where I hit the phase 2 in my life, where I was like, this validation, where I have to go and reply to every comment and feel a little bit great about people complimenting me, to a point where I had to hire someone to start, handling my TikTok and Instagram, and just reply to comments, and not for me to go and take them. And again, There's nothing wrong with it. And validations can be really great for some
Mm,
people, but I
mm,
realized that it doesn't help for me.
yeah,
It puts me in that place where, again, I'm looking outside and I'm like, how come I didn't get,
yeah,
does he validate? Like,
yeah.
it feels good.
Oh, definitely.
It's toxic for me. It's toxic for
Yeah.
me for people to tell me that I'm doing so great or, you
It,
know?
it it doesn't do anything. And I think the biggest thing is that you believe it, but you don't need someone else to tell you because you know it. It's like, yeah,
Have you seen what I do when it's my birthday? Do you know that I don't tell anybody?
I know
I
this.
can't stand people like knowing it's my birthday and singing for it's just something this is
Yeah,
developed over time.
yeah,
This was literally from the trauma from childhood of, you know, wanting that validation and trying to, prove to the world.
yeah,
Now Cena doesn't want it anymore, like
yeah,
it hurts me to have it.
yeah,
It became almost like extreme opposite. So yeah.
yeah. No, it's interesting because I think I think validation, I think, or like words of affirmation, whatever. It's one of like those love languages, right? So I think a lot of people, they thrive on, I want to hear that nice thing today, which is fair. Other
Definitely.
people don't like it at all because them, it's like, yeah, but I already know it. Like, it's not ego, it's not cockiness. Just I'm confident. It's like
Yeah.
I know what I've done. I know how far I've come. I know the journey. I know the struggle.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you know. Thing is, I don't know if men struggle with this, by the way, like validation, right? Because some people, I mean, some men, I'm sure they like hearing nice things, like, oh, for example, let's say I don't know, you did really good in that race, good job, or you did really good on that project you had at work, whatever. But then the problem then becomes like when you need to give it to your partner, you're like, but how do I do it? I don't know how to do it. Like, yeah, so it just becomes that big question mark of like, what the fuck do I do? But yeah, it's super interesting, by the way, that even like when you talk about your sister, because I had the exact same thing, even with validation in university. Like I remember, and even like fear of failure, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to go back a little bit. So there's a point in my life where I was going to get kicked out of university. Like I was really failing.
Yeah.
And I remember I was thinking to myself, I'm like, what are the boys going to think? So me, Fadi, and two other guys,
Mm.
I'm like, what are they going to think about me? Like, Kareem failed.
Will he
Kareem.
still be my friend?
Exactly. Will they remember me? Will they remember
Yeah.
that I exist? And I remember at the time I was playing rugby as well. So
Yeah.
rugby was everything to me. It was what I lived for at the time. Now I don't really care. But at the time, it was like the boys, the trainings, the camaraderie, traveling to go and play a game in the north of Lebanon, coming back to Beirut,
Yeah.
training again for the next game.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as well, I think I mean, thankfully I had my parents to help me out and my sister, but I think all that would have been nothing if I didn't put in the work. I
Mm.
really think so. Like, you can tell me everything all you want,
Yeah.
but I need to believe in it. And I'm like that. Like, you can tell me, oh, you did great. Great. Do I believe it? Yes. Great. If no, I'm not even gonna listen to it anymore. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I think a lot of men struggle with, maybe even in silence, that we
Mm.
don't, we're afraid of failure. But at the same time, there's a podcast I recorded a while back with Layla Saleh. She was like, you need to be pressured in life as a man. You need to be. And I think that's the biggest driver that you can ever get as a man, is knowing that on the other side of that pressure is a big reward. You need to know, you know, how far you want to go. How far do I want to take this pressure, and how much do I want to use it as a fuel to just drive me to whatever's out there for me? You know,
We're talking internal pressure, right? This is your own
and
pressure,
of
not
course, no, 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 no,
yeah.
no, 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 not world pressure is. Look, I think there's some world pressures that you just can't avoid.
Yeah.
There are things that you cannot avoid. But the internal pressures of, for example, I need to make a seven-figure salary within a year. Okay, you need to find a way to make it happen. There's going to be pressure because you're going to be thinking about it every night. It's like, okay, what am I doing to get there? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Mm.
And then you eventually get there. When you think
Setting your
about
goals.
getting goals, when you're thinking about training, you're thinking about competition, you're thinking about avoiding injuries. There's a lot of stuff that you get pressured by. Even small things like paying my bills, family. I need to get married. I need to do this. I need to do that. So there's a lot of stuff that we tend to struggle with as well, and we need to talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. No, it's a really, really good topic. It's That's what inspired me when I saw you. And I just FYI, I did have to ask people what is Koon Rijjeil mean. So I got it.
Okay,
Like,
that's
yeah.
awesome though. That's awesome.
And it's extremely important, especially in this day and age. Um, with mental struggle, I think it's increased by, depression's increased by. I don't want to go into figures again because it changes every year,
Mm,
but by a lot.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's things have increased, suicidal rates has increased by a lot. So it's really important to, not ignore it and know that, mental struggle, mental health, men's mental health, women's mental health, it's both. It's just mental
Mm,
health in general is really something that has to be not looked past.
mm,
We have to understand it, learn it, know how to deal with it.
definitely,
It's it can make you or break you.
definitely.
It's
It's
and
yeah.
yeah.
Thing is, it's one of those things, right, where I think because there hasn't been so much light being shed on it, is that people tend to overlook it,
Mhm.
um, and sometimes we normalize the way that we feel, which is, I mean, okay, to an extent, it's not okay. It's not good that we're normalizing. Okay, I feel sad. Let's
Mhm.
be sad, but work on how
Yeah.
to get out of being sad, right? And talking about it as well, like
Yeah.
talking about it with your friends, with your family, or whatever
Yeah.
close group of
Yeah.
friends, therapists, if you like, whatever,
Beautiful.
you know.
It reminded me of something actually when you said that. Talking about it, is definitely important. What some of the, best uh, idols I've listened to,
Mm,
um, and something I definitely experienced throughout my life, understanding that complaining just doesn't go anywhere.
mm,
Nobody wants to hear, you go and say that I'm tired, having a bad day. You're just literally affirming to yourself that you're not good enough.
mm,
You're affirming to yourself that you're tired. You're going to be tired.
mm,
You're telling yourself that you're having a bad day. You're going to have a bad day. You know, um, I've always, I've always been against, it's okay to acknowledge it
mm,
and know it, but it's and talk about it, but just complaining on just on a regular basis, there's
mm,
like going out
mm.
and just,
It's
someone,
like, hey, look at me, I'm sad. So yeah,
I'm so against it. It's just for yourself and for others,
yeah,
because let's say you're having the best day, you've just hit your targets,
mm,
something, your son just turned 5, it's his birthday, and I'm coming to you and I'm like, Kareem, man, I'm just tired and not sleep. Like, it's okay. You want to hear me out.
yeah,
Maybe you want to advise, but it's not fair. I just
mm,
feel like, and it's not gonna make me any better. You know, you might have an advice, but I feel like a lot of people just complain to complain,
mm,
they do it to, for their own self, relaxation and
mm,
relief.
mm.
But I just feel like we're both losing in this way.
I,
You know?
I agree and disagree with part of what
Yeah,
you said. So I agree in the sense of, when you're having that good day, you want everything to be great, right? So you
yeah,
don't want that one thing to come in and boost, like pop your bubble. But I think the part that I tend to disagree on is, I think to me, part of being a man as well
yeah,
is to take on that responsibility of helping those around you, even if you're having a great day. It's fine. Take it in. Help somebody get better. Help somebody feel better about themselves,
yeah.
about their because sometimes you never know, man. Like sometimes people just want to hear that one nice thing. You
And
know
it
what?
can
It's
change a
fine.
lot.
This will pass as well. Don't worry. I got you.
Yeah,
And Simon Sinek always talks about this.
yeah.
He always says, you need to find either that partner or that best friend that you
They'll
want to
listen
have.
to you.
Yeah, it was, and basically just say, I want to be in the mud with you. I want to
Yeah,
sit down in the mud, get stuck. Let's talk about it.
yeah,
Let's do this together.
yeah,
And to me, I think that's one of the best things about, or that's one of the best things I feel it is, to be a man as well, right? Is when you are in the mud with someone and you feel like, you know what, I'm gonna be the one to take ownership
yeah,
and help him or her get out of this, you know. But on the flip side,
yeah,
you also have people who complain,
yeah.
which okay, part and parcel is good and bad. But sometimes they complain because they wanna, you know, um, delegate that pressure to somebody to be like, you know what, I know when I talk to him, they're going to give me the good advice.
Mhm.
And sometimes you might not have the advice. Sometimes you might not know what to say. And that
Yeah,
to me happens all the time. But when I do, I always say good stuff. So
Yeah.
whenever you feel down, just let me know. But yeah, and I think as well, like, which is what I'm saying is part and parcel, right? Because the good thing about it is that, okay, I'm going to be the one who's going to help them come out, which adds a bit of pressure, but you need to be pressured in life. You cannot
Yeah.
just stay living life, you
Yeah.
know, worry free and this, because you won't go anywhere. You won't go
Yeah.
far, you
No,
know?
I hear you. I definitely think, yeah, like someone close to you, like your wife or your family. Sometimes there's times where these are the people that you want to buy. But I imagine just some people, they go to the grocery store and the guy at the cashier, you just tell 'em, they just let it out on him, or
Yeah. Yeah.
they just say something, they were waiting in line too long or something was taking, like, complain about things that you just complaining with
Mm,
no purpose,
mm, yeah.
and then again you're just disturbing others for I just find it a bit unfair,
Mm, mm,
but yeah, I definitely understand that people, there should be always room for conversation,
yeah.
and that'll be people that you give and get back, and
Yeah.
these are what you call your family, your friends,
Mm.
and yeah.
And as well, and I think that's also how you form very trusting circles. That's how you form very
Mm,
trusting relationships. As well, I think as well for self protection, you also need
yeah,
to as well put a limit, right? So you can't just always take in every single thing and expect to solve it now.
yeah,
There are things that cannot. So as well, so that's why it's a bit of a mix and match between everything. So you need to know how to take on the pressure and internalize it, and then okay, give the best possible advice or help for that person. But at the same time, not overexert yourself to the point that I can't think anymore. I'm so drained already, But yeah, I think again that's one of the many things that that we don't talk about enough is talk to your friends, talk to people, be open, and maybe more so men than women. I think women maybe here do it a little bit more than men. But I think for men, we have this culture of like there's a word in Arabic, I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like you make fun of everything all the time. It's like someone's
mm.
having a bad day. Oh, look at this guy. Oh, he's so weak. He's doing this. He's doing that. Whatever. And that
What's the term? What's the Arabic?
maniac,
Man,
maniac.
maniac.
I
Okay.
know it's like I don't know how you say the word in English though, but it's like you just keep on making fun of someone, making fun of someone, and it might not be with a bad intention. It's just how we are as somehow over here. So I think sometimes that pushes men away from talking to their friends as well, right? So that's why again you need to form that trusting circle of when
Yeah.
you have that one person who you can talk to.
Mhm.
I think that's all you need.
Super
Always,
important.
always.
Finding that right friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for sure, I'm gonna say, and you gotta do something about it.
Of
Talk,
course.
but you
Of
gotta go to
course.
the gym. Just you gotta
Of
do
course.
something about it. Go
Of
get those
course.
endorphins up.
Yeah.
Work on something, change something.
Change something in your life, man. And for me, the biggest change that I started to do, and I think you might have realized it, is I started doing the morning sessions.
Yeah.
I would never wake up.
Didn't like morning.
Never. Man,
Yeah.
I would never wake up.
How good does it feel?
Feels
Start your
great.
day with that boost of
It was,
serotonin.
and but the thing is as well, there's something as well that I was saying in my mind to myself. we- I think it was like a Tuesday or Thursday, and I was like, man, oh, fuck, it's like 5 in the morning. I need to wake up, go to training. Then I'm like, hold on, it's uncomfortable. I need to do it. I can't just stay here and find excuses. Oh, I'm tired. Okay, so what? Everyone else is tired in the world, but they're
Yeah.
still working. Why can't I go in and work?
Yeah.
Why can't I go and put in the time and energy for myself
Yeah.
to grow and be around as well good people, good
Yeah.
energy, and just pushing myself in a time
Yeah.
that I never really used to do it.
I
You know?
remember Neil Shoba always talks about, one of the guys I love listening to, um, talks about, if we only knew in this generation what
Mm,
real struggle, that people were actually going through back in the day. I don't want to call it real struggle, just different type of struggle
mm,
that people used to go through,
yeah, yeah,
compared to now. If we actually went and actually researched into it, and I did actually research, and it
yeah,
really impacted my life to see what our generations decades ago used to go through in this world.
yeah.
When you look at the problems we have now, it's just like
Come on.
if you really, and that can be really, that's one of the practices that I would do, would teach as a psychologist, to actually write those down, and
Mm,
then look at your problems right now. And sometimes you'll laugh. You'll
mm,
be like, that's funny.
Yeah.
did I really just complain today about being thirsty?
Yeah.
You know, I've already had a water at 10. Couldn't manage to,
Have another one. You know, and it's funny because that to me is one of the benefits of journaling, by the way. So when I used to journal a while back, now not so much, but I used to do before.
No.
When I'd go back and read it over like the next day or 2 days, I'm like,
Mm.
was I really upset about that one thing?
Yeah.
Like it all worked out anyways. So why am I? And I think that's been as well one of the bigger shifts in my mindset now is everything's going to work out, whether you like it or not. It will work out somehow, some way. Things will make sense,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, journal and just I think the problems that we have today aren't as major. I mean, thankfully we live in a safe country, so we don't have life or death situations. I think maybe our problems are a little bit more on like I don't know, not as drastic.
Yeah.
You know, but we need to find a way to cope with them, no matter how, and again, I think it all depends on again your mentality as a person, how strong you are mentally.
Yeah, that's a
you know.
big one. Do you want to be a leader or do you want to be average?
Yeah.
I always say, like, and that's a choice as well. Like, do you want to be a leader? Do you want to excel or do you want to be average? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be average, but you're going to have different mindset.
Yeah.
You're going to have a different lifestyle. You're
Definitely.
going to have a different drive. You're going to have a different motivation. You're going to have a different, goal. So it's really important to, classify that first. And then it's time for action. And action, it's just
and
I
action is
live for just go after it.
I know.
I live for this. Really, I live for it. I live for go after it, and especially if it's hard, go after it.
Exactly. Was that something
You know?
something that you feel like you would have never even thought of doing?
Being possible.
Possible. Impossible is possible. So, Seena, the way we like to end every episode
Yes.
is you have a book. I don't know if you've noticed it or not. But basically the way we like to end every episode is we like to usually ask the guests to write a quote to somebody who's struggling, somebody in need, somebody who is really struggling with their mental health, doesn't know where to go, how to move forward. What's one quote that you live by
Ooh.
that could help this person? You don't need to read it out loud. You can keep it for the notebook.
I like that. Something that I live by.
Something that you live by. So something that you really believe can help somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll keep it simple. And I can read it if you want me to.
Can.
Yeah.
And if you want to. You don't need to, but you can.
I say, stop looking into the wall. Stop thinking too much. Get out. And, I've had this conversation with many psychologists in the past, friends of mine or people in the life coaching industry and especially yogis, meditation gurus. I love having this conversation because it seems to be something that people like to challenge me on a lot. And I love we might not have time for it.
Yeah.
You might even want to challenge me on it, but it's very much, something that a lot of coaches and therapists really, see very differently to me. Of, being in your own thoughts and thinking, and they say sit down and think and journal. I like to go against that a lot. I like to stop looking to. I always, I've seen it in many people. I've seen it myself where we get in these moments where we're just sitting down and we're just looking at something, and we're just thinking, and we're just, we're like, where is it going? What to do? And you start questioning, and you keep on questioning. And I believe that's a very dangerous place that you can be in. Not all the time. And again, depends how strong you are. And when a lot of people tell me like, no, you should be in your thoughts, I'm like, guys, it takes people years to get there. Sometimes you need therapy for years, or you need practice and homework to be able to actually sit down, like what yogis and life coaches are preaching, to actually, be in your own thoughts and talk to yourself and self-love and self-development. These things are not easy. It's not something you can just tell everybody and they're just like, okay, I'm gonna go home and think about
I
it.
love this.
You know what I
feel
mean?
Good. Yeah.
And I feel good. No, I say get out. I say get out of that room, get out of that sofa, get up, stand up, go get some fresh air, go outside, move. Just move. Whether it's going for a run, because I have done it over and over again where I've gotten to slumps, where what I call the mental blocks. And that 5K run just opened my
It's
mind.
everything.
It gave me a purpose, not the run itself. During that run, like I said, there's a huge mental motor neuron signals to actually work, to actually do something that's connected, one, to your brain. And your brain has to be happy. And sometimes you can't make yourself happy
Yeah.
because you don't have that person that comes in. I don't know, whatever makes some people like cars. Someone comes in with a Rolls. It might not happen. You know, might not have that friend that comes in, that goofy guy that, you know, says, let's play FIFA.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in that room, just you. And that run, what I can tell you is that run, and what I can prove to you, and I can say it over and over, is that run will give you serotonin, endorphins, that hormone, the happy hormone, that will actually stop that brain fog and will let you not maybe solve your problem, but it will give you that space and that clarity, and the synapses will fire up for you to be able to be like, during that run, I just needed to call my mom.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it could be something so simple.
Yeah.
It could be, I think I need to change university. I need to quit my job.
Yeah.
It could be that, because you're flowing. But in that other state,
I think
where
you're flowing as well, but as well, I think, you know, the biggest thing as well about it is that you're doing something that, depending on who's doing it, but you might be uncomfortable in that run, but then when you finish, you're like, hold on, I feel fucking great. You know, I've done something that I think was quite tough, so I'm going to do something that's even harder than that.
Yeah.
Whether it's quitting something you're uncomfortable doing, whether it's, if it's quitting your job, or maybe you're booking a flight to a place that I don't know you've always wanted to go to, or whatever it is. So I think definitely getting out is great. I think I understand what you're saying. I think, look, to me, again, as I said, it depends on, one, how strong you are on the inside. Because if you're the kind of person who will slump and will write but slump and not do anything, I think definitely get out. If you're someone who's strong enough, write them down, but know that that's a thought. It's not the reality. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
Take that thought and run with it, quite literally. So anyways, one, thank you again for being on the podcast. It was an incredibly insightful episode. And thanks for being part of it. I
really enjoyed it, Kareem. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Maybe.
How was that, Nito? Did you like it?